Well, hello everyone. It's Pastor Britt here, and we would like to welcome you to our third installment of our hybrid officers retreat, in which we talk about trusting the multiplier. And so I'm going to read this section from Matthew 14:15 through 17, which is our scripture on the loaves and fishes. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." "We only have here 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. And so we're continuing with this theme of the loaves and fishes, and with that idea of trust the multiplier. And so I want to look at that word trust for just a moment. Think of all the people in your life that you trust. We might say we trust our parents, our friends, teachers, those in authority, and I think even strangers. We trust parents to tell us the truth and to help guide us. We trust friends to look out for us and to love us. We trust teachers to help us understand and grow. We trust those in authority to lead faithfully. And we trust strangers to obey laws so our society doesn't evolve into chaos. But there's also someone else that we trust, and that is our God. Now, what makes us trust all these people that I mentioned? Often it is their character or our past experiences with them. If you have a friend who habitually lies, they might lose your trust. So we can definitely use someone's character as a basis of trust. And we can also use their actions as a measuring stick of whether or not to trust them. Do they follow through with what they say, or do they go against their word? Someone's reputation and character and ability to follow through has a big determination on their trust levels with you. And so we come to our trust in God. And we see throughout Scripture that God delivers on his promises. We see that he always saves when he says he will save, that he will always punish and correct when he says he will punish and correct. God is consistent with his word, which should give us great confidence in trusting him. Even the disciples, as they walked the earth with Jesus, saw his character close up and personal. They saw how his actions aligned with his words. They saw the miraculous signs that he performed. Yet when it comes to this story, we see a slight lapse in trust. So what happened? I think sometimes that fear and worry sneak their way into our lives and cause us to lose trust despite someone's character and experience. It reminded me of this story I heard of this tightrope walker. And there's a tightrope over Niagara Falls. And this man, Charles Blondin, in 1859, walked 160 feet above the falls several times back and forth. And there were huge crowds watching as he did this, so they knew he could do it. He upped the stakes by walking across it on stilts, another time on a bicycle, and once he even carried a stove and cooked an omelet. Then he walked across with a wheelbarrow blindfolded, and everyone oohed and awed at how amazing this one was. But then he asked the audience, "Do you believe I can carry a person across in the wheelbarrow?" And everyone shouted, "Yes, absolutely," they believed. And so he said, "Okay, who will get in the wheelbarrow?" No volunteers. And I think that happens with God sometimes. We say that we believe and we trust. We are oohed and awed by the healings and the teachings and the miracles. But when we have to commit something of ourselves, we can get a bit fearful. When Jesus told them, "You give them something to eat," they backed down saying, "Well, we only have 5 loaves and 2 fishes. But Jesus was calling them and inviting them to participate in this miracle in which God would multiply. But they did not trust that God would multiply what they had to use it as a blessing. But they persevered, offering what they had, and they saw that God provided in abundance. And so we know that God is amazing and powerful and deserves all of our trust. So at times when fear starts to sink in and talks us out of trusting and surrendering what we have and what we are, we must remember this story. We must remember God's promises and actions and character, knowing that he will multiply and bless others for his glory, if only we are willing to accept that offer. So I have 3 questions for you to discuss. First, what has God multiplied in your life? Second, what are ways we've seen God to be faithful to our church in the past? And how is he multiplying what we have for the future? And third, what are we going to offer our God today to multiply for the future? Well, thanks for joining me all, and I hope you have a good discussion.